All praises to the Most High, the Elohim of our fathers, creator of heaven and earth and of all things. Only him we praise, and only him we glorify. Shalom, brothers and sisters, who are scattered in all corners of the earth. Sanbonani, Ujambo, Nda. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the subscribers of this channel. Thank you for all your contributions. Your contributions are noted, and every now and then, with your permission, I would like to mention some of our contributors to this channel. I think everybody is contributing one way or the other, either by listening, that's contribution, or participating in a discussion, it's another contribution. Sharing is another contribution. So I'd like you to share and like, which is another contribution. Like and share this video. If you are new to this channel, please consider to subscribe, like and share this video, and also participate in the discussions. So today's discussion is inspired by a question which was asked by one of our fellow brothers. Now, unfortunately, today you don't have the slides or the information. So I would encourage you to have a pen and paper, because if I make any citation, I will tell you where it comes from which book, so that you can go and read for yourselves. I'm not claiming that everything that I say you must take it as it is, and a lot of brothers and sisters have demonstrated this. They've come back to me and said, you've quoted a wrong chapter here. It's supposed to be this, it's not supposed to be that, which is encouraging. It tells me that I'm not alone. We are working together. If I make a mistake, you come back and say, you've quoted something wrong, or you did something wrong. Because I'm not claiming to have all the knowledge. There are more people who are knowledgeable than me, and I learn from everybody. So this is inspired by one of our members in the channel. And he said to me, and I have I'm going to read what he said. And then I came up with the title of this video, which is "The Bantu were targeted by colonialists, aided by popes and the New Testament." And so when I talk about the Bantu, it is interesting here in the continent. The Egyptians don't call themselves the Bantu. The Libyans don't call themselves the Bantu. They know who the Bantu are. The Algerians, the Moroccans, the Tunisians, some of the Ethiopians. In Ethiopia, they are Bantu. They know themselves. But you find other nations as well who don't associate themselves with the Bantu. So we know who we're talking about. Most of us are found largely in the sub-Saharan region. But it doesn't mean that you will not find them in Ghana, you will not find them in Senegal, you will not find them in Burkina Faso. You will not find them in Sudan, you will not find them. It doesn't mean that. We are scattered in all corners. We are all over the place. And for various reasons, as I will demonstrate today, we were moved from one place to another. One of the most significant reasons why we were scattered is because of our own iniquities. And here we will demonstrate that we are the people of the book, the people that are spoken of in the Bible. It is us. And we have no association with the New Testament. In fact, the New Testament was written for our own detriment, to walk away from the Torah and believe in something which is a doctrine of men. It was meant for us to be disobedient to the Most High. That was the purpose of the New Testament. So the Bantu were targeted by colonialists, aided by popes, with the effective use of the New Testament. Now, this is what my brother said. He said, I'm not going to make any requests, but at the same time, I would like to hear you break down 1 Peter 2, verse 18. If you have an interest in reading this, take it down. But I'm going to go through it. He is only cited 1 Peter 2, verse 18. I will also look at other verses that within the book of Peter or the letter of Peter. Ephesians, verses 6, chapter 6, verses 5 to 6. So it's Ephesians chapter 6, verses 5 to 6. This is the letter that the note that he wrote for me. But I will also indicate if I'll be reading from more than one or two verses that he cited. Colossians chapter 3, verses 22 to 23. 1 Timothy 6, verses is quite a challenge. And Titus 2, verses 9. They go well with well-known verses like turn the other cheek and give Caesar which is Caesar's. I see clearly that the book, which is the New Testament, is a book of total submission. You are quite right, my brother. It was intended for us to submit completely. I might sound crazy. I have looked into the Piso family. The Piso family is the family that is believed to have written this New Testament. It's not inspired by the word of the Most High or by the Spirit of the Most High. So we have come to know what it is like to be inspired by the Spirit of the Most High. And when we read this book, and you know it, because you've been reading certain verses with great discomfort, but you've been praying for understanding, you've been praying to have more faith. The Most High is not going to give you any understanding because this was intended for you to sin. So, he says, but even the God that JC, now JC is abbreviation for Jesus Christ, even the God that he refers to sometimes, I believe, is the actual Roman Empire, concluded with them saying in Revelation 1:5 that he is a prince of all the kings of the earth. This is a good observation. Jesus says he's the prince of all the kings of the earth. And then he says, what does that really mean? Anyway, I hope I make sense. You make perfect sense, my brother. And these are the things that we are grappling with. We need our people to realize what the New Testament was actually meant for. What was its purpose? Let's have a little bit of a background of information on the New Testament. And you can find this information available easily on the internet. The New Testament was written about 400 to 500 years after the last book in the Tanakh, where the last books were written. 400 to 500 years later. Now this tells you something. The New Testament was an afterthought. Those who read it, which were the Romans and the Greek at that time, they read it and realized this is not talking about all nations, but it is talking about one nation. All promises that are made in the Tanakh are made to one nation, And then that nation is the Bantu. Somebody asked the question and say, but the Old Testament does not talk about the Bantu. They are not mentioned. Yes, they are not. But over a period of time, we became known as the Bantu. Now we can easily distinguish ourselves from those who call themselves Jews who are sitting in a place that is called the Jewish state of Israel. We did not assume an identity. We are that identity. We are those people that are mentioned in the Bible. We cannot convert to anything. We cannot convert to Christianity. We cannot convert to Judaism. And nobody can convert to who we are. And this was designed by the Most High. We are who we are, and nobody can try to adopt our belief, our culture, our traditions. Because today, our practice of the Torah is seen in our cultural practices. And this is what the Torah was intended to be, a way of life. It was never intended to be a religion. So those who live in the Middle East have made it a religion, and they call it Judaism. And there's no such thing. It is their own creation. The New Testament canonization process was not a single event. So after it was written, for it to be canonized, so canonization means they have decided on the books that the books that they decided that conforms with their beliefs. Canonization is to make something straight. It means these books conform to certain principles that are agreeable to their doctrine. And they had agreed that these 27 books are the books that should be canonized, and that they are the books that should be in the Bible. A thought, years later, they came up with the idea of then putting it together as the New Testament. While the major New Testament writings were widely accepted by the mid-3rd century, the official canonization of the 27 books was formalized by councils of the church, particularly those at Hippo, 393 CE, and Carthage, 397 and 419, according to Wikipedia and according to Catholic Answers articles. These councils were championed by the Roman Catholic Church. They are the products of the Roman Catholic Church. The canonization of the New Testament is the work, it is the art and science of the Roman Catholic Church. If you are a Christian, you are a product of the Roman Catholic Church. You can be in denial, but your acts will show it. Your belief in Christ being the Messiah associate you with the Roman Catholic Church. Whether you like it or not, you are a Catholic. Whether you like it or not, you are a Christian. Some of our brothers are saying, oh no, we are not Christians. And they go to an extent of criticizing Christianity, but they accept the books or certain books of the New Testament. They accept Christ or Jesus as their Messiah and Savior. They say foolishly in their mind, we will chew the meat and spit the bones. That's a foolish thought, because which meat do you chew? When the whole meat is rotten, what part of it do you chew? The little, the corner of the steak? All of it is bad, from the first to the last. So how do you manage to do this? Now, take note of these councils. All of them had an influence in, and you can Google them. There was the Council of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea did not play any part in canonizing the 27 books. But the Council of Nicaea deliberated on the deity of Jesus. So the deity of Jesus is a product of a discussion, a deliberation among Christians, and not only Christians, Roman Catholics. They came up with what became known as the Apostles' Creed. And the Apostles' Creed affirmed the deity of Jesus. So all churches who believe that Jesus is the Messiah or their Messiah, their belief stems from the deliberations of the Roman Catholic Church. So subsequent to the Council of Nicaea, there were various other councils that deliberated on the canonization and the affirmation of the 27 books of what is known today as the New Testament. The Council of Hippo, which sat in 393 CE. The Council of Carthage, there were two councils of Carthage. One sat in 397 and the other 419. These councils further solidified the canonization, affirming the 27 books. The Council of Florence, this one sat in 1442. And then the Council of Trent. All these councils were spearheaded by the Roman Catholic Church. So you are in denial if you say, I don't belong in any denomination, or I belong in this denomination. All of these denominations are offshoots of the Catholic Church. You are part of it. You are a subject of the Pope. Now, let us go back to what my brother asked me to look into. I will start from the book of Matthew, or the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 39 and verses 43 to 45. Verse 39. But I tell you not to resist an evil person, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. What were they doing here? They were preparing our people to be subjected to slavery, to be subjected to oppression. These are the ways of the so-called Jesus the Messiah. He's contradicting the Torah. He says, Matthew 5:39, but I tell you not to resist an evil person. The Torah teaches us that an evil person among us must be stoned to death because he will pollute all of us. But Jesus is changing it. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. Give him another cheek. Verse 43. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. What? I say to you, love your enemies. Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. Do good to those who hate you. No wonder our leaders are tamed, because our leaders were educated by these colonizers. And the condition was that they accept Christianity. They accepted Christianity. The leaders from the formation of our liberation movements, if you check the background of all these leaders, they are highly educated, most of them. The former president of Zimbabwe, President Robert Mugabe, had 21 degrees. 21 degrees. Our own presidents here, with the exception of President Jacob Zuma, he's the only one who never set foot in school. He was never educated. But he's smart. And I'm not saying he's an angel, and I'm not saying I favor him, but he has outsmarted a lot of people, including judges. He has no education, I'm telling you, but he has outsmarted a lot of people. And I'm not taking, please understand me, I'm not taking anything away from education. But the word education has been corrupted. We were told that colonization benefited us because we got to be educated. They found us educated. One of the political analysts was disparaging a member of parliament because he did not go to school. He said he is an idiot. He called him an idiot. He says, we are being led by idiots. But this man who never went to school is an artist who has made a good name for himself. And I think that he lives better than this analyst. How are you an idiot when you can speak your own language, when you can have 7 wives and provide for your family? How is that being an idiot? And I'm sure that his bank account is better than this one who's calling him an idiot. He's living a better life. How is he an idiot? But these words, idiot, educated, literate, illiterate, they come from this colonial education. So if you can't speak English fluently, you are illiterate. Even if you speak your own language, we were raised by parents who couldn't speak English, but they had wisdom. They had a lot of knowledge. Were they illiterate? Were they uneducated? They were educated, but not by colonialism. And we need to acknowledge that. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. And this is why our leaders, after liberation, after all the so-called liberation, and these liberations were fake, all of them, they were managed. Our involvement in the struggle was managed. Its end result was known. They knew that we were going to fight against oppression, and they managed it. They gave our leaders education. They Christianized them. The second president of this country studied in Britain, the country that colonized us. He spent most of his life there. The president of the ANC in exile, he lived in London with his children. And his children, after the so-called freedom, came back. They can't speak any of the Bantu languages. They can only converse in English. These are our leaders. You know what Nelson Mandela did? when he came out of prison. Firstly, he started negotiations without the involvement of anyone. He was alone. Well, people will claim that he consulted with those that were in prison with him. When he started these negotiations, he was isolated from the rest of his comrades who were in Robben Island. They took him and placed him in a house. So he was under house arrest, if you wish, for several years before he was released. So they placed him in that house so that the white people that came to his house to negotiate with him, they don't go to jail. At least he's placed in a house, he's given nice clothes, he eats. So he was technically free compared to his comrades who were still in jail and others who were in exile. He accepted that condition. And after that, there was negotiations with people who incarcerated him for 27 years. At that time, we thought it was a good thing because we all had this Christian mentality that said we will go to heaven if we forgive enemies. We all believed in what Jesus is saying here. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. These were wicked men who did horrible things to us. For many years, he comes out of prison. He accepts a condition to live in a place where he is isolated from everybody else. And he negotiates alone with the white people. Then he negotiates for the release of the rest of them, and then he comes out as a hero, the last person to be released. And we all applauded. So this whole thing is staged. And then he does something bizarre. The house where he lived in as a prisoner, under house arrest, he built the same house for himself. He built the same house, same architecture, same everything in his rural town in Kuno. No, is it Kuno? I forget. But he built the same house. He took the plans of that house and built himself a prison where he can walk himself into that prison. So our leaders had prison mentalities, slave mentalities, inferiority complexes. And they were sitting with white people, the enemy, who had done horrible things to us. But our leaders were groomed from very early on to be what they became, so that oppression should take a different form, so that Caucasians who oppressed us should not lose their economic value. And they are not working alone, they have allies throughout the world. That's why white people can get refugee status, but black people who are affected by the same crime, they can't get refugee status in America, in the United States of America, but only white people, because of white privilege. But I say to you, verse 44, we're still in Matthew 5, verse 44. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Are you listening? Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear what this verse is saying? Do you hear what Jesus is saying? Your Messiah. My Messiah is the Most High. And he said something contrary. I'll read it just now. He didn't say this. Jesus is contradicting him. He's paving a way. By the way, he didn't exist. They created him. But they made sure they pave a way for themselves in future. But I say to you, love your enemies. And this has happened here in the continent. Our leaders are trying too hard to please Caucasians. You saw what our president did. White people who are lying and say there's a genocide in South Africa, they go and apply. These people are people who are running away. They are people who are broke, they are uneducated. They can't make it in this society because the laws are not protecting them as white people. The laws, no matter how crooked they are protecting everybody. These laws are crooked, but they protect everybody, not white people only, as it was during apartheid. During apartheid, the laws only protected white people. We were not citizens. We were not even counted in the census. We were not allowed to vote. We only started voting in 1994. We only became full citizens in 1994. Can you imagine? They found us here and they took away our dignity, and our leaders sat with them instead of putting them in jail, lynching them as they lynched many of our brothers and sisters. They should have done the same thing, but they did the contrary, including building houses that looked like prisons. And then they get Nobel Peace Prizes for that, for initiating peace, or for opting for this fake peace. White privilege is perpetuated. It is continued way even after when it's not supposed to be there, especially here in the continent. Verse 45. That you may be sons, so if you subject yourself to these things that Jesus is talking about, this is the reward. That you may be sons, of your Father in heaven. So if you love your enemies, you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. And then we believe this. Now I made some parallels between Matthew 5 verse 43 and Leviticus 19:18. Matthew 5, I'll see if I should not make this promise, but I'll see if I'm able to make a PDF and a link and put it in the distribution. If I fail to do so, if anyone wants to see this presentation, give me your email, I'll send it to you. Matthew 5 verse 43, compare it with Leviticus 19 verse 18. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Now Leviticus 19:18 says, verse 18, you shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people. So this was twisted. Jesus said, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor. But the neighbor here is explained. You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people. But you shall love your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? Your brother, your sister. So when I say shalom, brothers and sisters, I shall not take vengeance against my brothers and my sisters. It says nothing about my enemy. My enemy is my enemy. My enemy must be eliminated. I will not sit down with the enemy and negotiate peace when they have done what they have done. the sentence ends by saying, I am Yah. Let's read Leviticus 24, verses 17 to 20. Whoever takes a human life shall surely be put to death. How many lives have these people taken in the continent, in the diaspora, and they are still doing it? In the diaspora, the police have a license to kill willy-nilly, and the law protects them. Whoever takes a human life, we are told to love our enemies. Leviticus 24 says, whoever takes a human life shall surely be put to death. Whoever takes an animal's life shall make it good. Life for life. If anyone injures his neighbor, as he has done, it shall be done to him. If you injure your neighbor, it shall be done to you, especially if it was deliberately done. Fracture for fracture. Eye for eye. Tooth for tooth. Whatever injury he has given a person shall be given to him. This is justice. But the Piso family read all these things and they said, nah, we're not going this route. We're going to create another doctrine that will make these people turn away from these beliefs. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. We will be in trouble if they believe this way. They will hunt us down and kill us. So let's come up with another doctrine and force it upon them. Now, let us test what Jesus is saying against what the Most High is saying. We've just read Leviticus 24. Let's read Numbers 23, verses 19. Elohim is not man that he should lie, or a son of man that he should change his mind. You understand that? What he has said does not change. So whatever Jesus is saying is not consistent with what the Most High said. Has he said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it? Now, let's get to the most interesting things about this New Testament that our people believe in. And now they go about talking about black Jesus. You heard what that black Jesus said. Love your enemy. Romans 13 verses 1 to 7. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. Really? Really? And the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Which one? Which God is that? Clearly they are talking about their own God, the God that they have created, because the Most High will not accept this kind of thing. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God. Now, I can say to you that many Christians are hypocrites because they choose what they want to believe in and what they don't want to believe in. I know that I was in the trenches with Christians. Archbishop Desmond Tutu was also a Christian, but he was fighting alongside with us in the struggle. He never said accept the authority of these guys because their authority comes from God. But he opposed their racist system. There were many other prominent Christian leaders. Reverend Frank Chicana was one of them. Reverend Alan Bussack was another. So they are hypocrites. They did not follow some of these things to the latter. We know Archbishop Desmond Tutu, one of his famous statements was that if God does not accept homosexuality, then he will rather go to hell. That's what he said. Contrary to the teachings that he reads and he was teaching. Verse 2, therefore whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Is that so? Rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. So if you do good, you'll be a house slave. You'll have praise. That's what they wanted. For he is God's minister. The master slave is God's minister. The oppressor is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, you know what evil is here in this context? If you rebel against your authorities, if you do evil, be afraid. For he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. These things, these verses were laying a foundation for atrocities that were perpetuated or perpetrated by Caucasians who colonized the continent and took our people to slavery and divided us. For because of this, you also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers attending continually to this very thing. Render, therefore, to all their due. Taxes to whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Do you see the foundation that was laid for slavery, for oppression? Let's look at 1 Peter 2, 18 to 21. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle. Don't be submissive only to the good masters and those who are gentle, but be submissive to the harsh as well. To those who treat you badly, be submissive to them. Do you realize where this is coming from? It comes from the New Testament. Read it and tell me if you are an honest Christian, because it's either you believe in all of it or you are a hypocrite. You choose what you want to believe in. Would you rather be a hypocrite or believe in the Most High and Him alone? What are you doing? This was meant for you to be rebellious against the Most High. For this is a commendable thing, if because of conscience towards God, one endures grief, suffering wrongfully. For what credit is it if when you are beaten for your faults, are you understanding this? For what credit is it when you are beaten for your faults, you take patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if you take it patiently, this is commendable before God. How can we believe this thing? We believed in this thing when we were young. when we were still blind, when we were not awoke. We can't have people telling us this kind of things. For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us. Christ, who did not exist, who is staged, he suffered for us. Now you must mimic that idol that didn't exist. So you must accept oppression, because Christ also accepted suffering. Do you realize how hypocritical this is? None of you wants to subject themselves to this kind of things. None. You resist it. And this, by the way, means it continues. When you are working for somebody, you must subject yourself to their oppression, oppressive rules, whatever, because their authority comes from God, according to the New Testament. Whatever they do to you. It's not limited, by the way. They are entitled to raping you, because their authority comes from their God. This is not justice, but this is an instrument of oppression. For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example. What example? That you should follow his steps. That you should follow his steps. Are you hearing this? Do you understand what is being said here? Can this have been inspired by the Most High? Certainly not. This is man-made. They were laying a foundation to invade, to kill, to rape, to loot mineral resources from people. And people must just obey, because they will get a better reward in heaven. This is what Christianity is talking about, is teaching about. Let us look at Ephesians 6, verses 5 to 8. Bond servants, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in sincerity of heart as to Christ. You see how widespread these verses are. They are all over the New Testament. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but as bond servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatever good anyone does, he will receive the same from the Lord. You'll receive your reward from heaven. Heaven which no one is going to. Another lie. They make you believe in things that will never manifest. No one is going to heaven, because the Torah is telling us that. Whether he is a slave or free, all of this is nonsense. Colossians 3, verses 22 and 23. I think it's 22 to 25. Bond servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in sincerity of heart, fearing God. And whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and to the men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ. But he who does wrong will be repaid for what he has done, and there is no partiality. He who does wrong is not the master, it is the slave who opposes the master. They are talking about you. They are talking about total submission, as my brother has said. This book was intended for us to be submissive completely, so that when they come to oppress us, we are submissive. And they did a good job. They rewarded those who converted to Christianity and gave them good education. And those who refused were condemned, and they were called all sorts of names, uncivilized, barbaric, and so on. Let's quickly now look at Timothy. 1 Timothy 1 and 2. Let as many bondservants as are under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all honor, so that the name of God and his doctrine may not be blasphemed. Which God is this one? Because this is certainly not the Elohim of our fathers. This is a new one. That's why many people say there are two different gods. There's a God of the Old Testament. He is an angry God. And the God of the New Testament is very kind. Very kind to who? Because this is not inspired. This is not justice, and this is not inspired by him. Obviously, if you can say that, then your observation is correct. These are two different books written by two different groups of people. One is man-made, and the other is the word of the Most High, and it is full of truth and justice. And those who have believing masters. So if your masters are believing, let them not despise them because they are brethren, but rather serve them because those who are benefited are believers and beloved. Teach and exhort these things. So Paul is telling Timothy to teach and exhort these things. Let us look at Titus 2, 9 and 10. Exhort bond servants to be obedient to their own masters. What does the word exhort mean? Strongly encourage them to do something. Encourage people what? To do what? To be obedient to their own masters. Encourage them to accept slavery and oppression. To be well-pleasing in all things, not answering back. Are you hearing this? Not answering back. Not pilfering. Now, what is pilfering? Pilfering is stealing things of little value, or stealing. But showing all good fidelity. What is fidelity? Is faithfulness to a person. Which person? The master, the oppressor. Be faithful to your colonizer. Be faithful to your slave master. This is what the New Testament is teaching. That they may adorn. And what is to adorn is to make more beautiful and attractive the doctrine of God and our Savior in all things. How do you find this thing? What do you think? How do you find these things? Are you still a Christian? What can be defended here in all these things? Are you going to say, no, this part was interfered? It is spread across the New Testament. In the previous videos, we're reading all the verses that have been plagiarized. This is not authentic. You are wasting your time reading fiction and believing in it. This New Testament is not an authentic big book. It is fiction. It was intended for you to believe in all these things. Let us look at the doctrine of discovery, and I'm going to go through it very quickly. You can find it on Google, the doctrine of discovery. I just have the summary of it. The doctrine of discovery is a broad theological and historical concept encompassing a series of papal bulls. Now, what are papal bulls? What is a papal bull? A papal bull is a solemn official letter or document issued by the Pope. So all these things come from the Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church. It is named for the lead seal traditionally affixed to this document to authenticate them. Papal bulls often deals with important matters like canonization, declaration of dogma, or granting privileges, particularly Dum Diversas, which was founded in 1452, which justified European colonization of lands not inhabited by Christians. The Dum Diversas bull authorized actions against non-believers, including enslavement, forming a key foundation for the doctrine of discovery. Now, the doctrine of discovery found its way in many of these European countries who participated in the slavery of our people, in the colonialization of our people. The colonialization, the enslavement of our people was inspired by this papal bull, which was written and endorsed by the Pope in Rome. Who is the originator of this document of discovery? Pope Nicholas V. He issued Dumas Diversas. It is an integral part of this doctrine of discovery in 1452. The Pope authorized the Portuguese king. So initially he authorized the Portuguese king, King Alfonso, to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, people who did not believe, Arabs, Muslims, people who did not believe, pagans. Now, pagans is melanated people here in the continent, whatsoever, and to enslave them. This comes from the Pope. Enslave them, people who are not Christians. And the whole of the continent here, we were not Christians. So they had to come here and colonize us. Subsequent to the papal bulls, this was not the only papal bull that authorized the invasion of our lands, the enslavement of our people. There were others as well. If you read about the papal bulls, especially those that concerned the enslavement of our people, you'll see all the popes that affixed their signatures to these things. Subsequent, about 4 centuries later, there was a Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885. This Berlin Conference included 14 European countries that sat down and decided on dividing the continent according to their interests, according to their economic interests. This Berlin Conference was chaired or convened by Otto von Bismarck, who was the German Chancellor at that time. There were 14 countries, but the major countries that sat in that Berlin Conference, and this was whiteness. There was no African represented in that Berlin Conference. None. This is white superiority, white supremacy, whiteness. Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, etc. Spain was there. Europeans divided Africa without regard for African culture. They didn't care. African kingdoms or borders. So if you come to the continent, especially close to the borders, you'll find that people on this side of the border, they speak the same language as people on that side of the border. Because families were separated. Families were divided. But what this also happened was that it ensured that we lost even the smallest connection we still had on who we are. That we are a nation, we are a people. That's why our languages are interconnected. We speak languages today with different dialects, but you can still tell that these people were one nation at some point. This is what Prophet Joel or Joel says in Joel 3 verse 2. I will gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them on behalf of my people. Who are his people? We are his people, not the church. The New Testament has tried to replace us, and they call themselves the New Israel. It will not work, because judgment is coming against those who wrote the New Testament, those who believe in it, and those who took us to slavery and colonized us, those who divided. Listen to what Joel is saying. I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there on behalf of my people and my heritage, Jacob, or Jacob, because they have scattered them among the nations and have divided up my land. This is what I've been talking about. They sat in a conference, they divided the land of the Most High among themselves. They took the land. This, you can see, it is not talking about the Middle East. This has never happened in the Middle East. They never took anyone in the Middle East, divided their land. This has happened. It had an impact here in the continent. It had an impact here. This is directly referring to us here. Let us read Psalm 83. O Elohim, do not keep silence. Do not hold your peace or be still, O Elohim. For behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have raised their heads. They lay crafty plans against your people. They consult together against your treasured ones. They do what? They consult together. We've just read about the papal bulls, the document of discovery, the Berlin Conference. They sit together against your treasured ones. So do not keep silence, O Elohim. They say, come, let us wipe them out as a nation. Let the name of Yaakov be remembered no more. This was prophecy. That's why a lot of people here in the continent, and that is why it is important, if you see this message and you believe it, you need to share it. People need to know who they are. Because somebody made sure that they don't remember who they are. They say, come, let us wipe them out as a nation. Let the name of Jacob be remembered no more. And this is exactly what has happened here. People don't remember anymore who they are. That's why people are Christians. They think this is the right thing to do. They are being misled. If you had highly educated people like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Reverend Frank Chikan, Archbishop Muzarewa in Zimbabwe, and many of these guys who are highly educated. They were educated by the system, by the way, and they were blind to the truth. They did not know all of this. And you look upon them as your models and say, if they believed it, it means it's true. These are educated people. You think they were inspired by the Spirit of the Most High? They were inspired by wickedness. That's why they couldn't see straight. For they conspired with one accord against you. They make a covenant. In the Berlin Conference, they sat down and they made a covenant. They agreed on how they were going to loot, steal, rape, kill. This did not happen in the Middle East. It happened right here. It is still happening. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also has joined them. They are the strong arm of the children of Lot, Selah. Do to them as you did to Midian. As to Sisera and Yabin at the river Kishon, who were destroyed at Endo, who became dung for the ground. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, all their princes like Zebah and Zalmunna, who said, let us take possession for ourselves of the pastures of Elohim. O my Elohim, make them like whirling dust, like chaff before the wind. As fire consumes the forest, as the flame sets the mountains ablaze. And this is what is close. This is what is happening now. So verse 15 now, may you pursue them with your tempest. Pursue them with your tempest. What is tempest? Violent storms. What is happening today in the world? Have you noticed all these countries that participated in slavery, in colonialization? They don't know what is going on. Floods, violent storms, hurricanes. In Israel, the Jewish state of Israel, the other day, there were raging fires. Fires were coming from the trees, and they did not know how it was happening. They will be judged, and they are being judged. We're not going to encourage them to repent. We're going to keep quiet. Terrify them with your hurricane. This is what we're witnessing today. It is happening. It is happening. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek your name, O Yah. Let them be put to shame and dismayed forever. Let them perish in disgrace, that they may know that you alone, not with Jesus, you alone, whose name is Yah, are the Most High over all the heaven, over all the earth. Do you understand? Do you understand who you are? Do you get it? The people that are mentioned in the Bible are not white people, are not Caucasians, as you see in the movies that are played towards Easter, like The Passion of Christ. Well, The Passion of Christ is a movie. I don't care about it that much. But some movies, like the movies about Exodus, Moses, Abraham, all of those people, the places that are mentioned have been changed so that your mind is disoriented. The places are changed, the names of people are changed, and you cannot make any connection with any of them. This is talking about you. Even the New Testament, it was designed for you. It was made to be an aid for oppression. But there's one truth, the truth of the Most High. Choose what you want to believe. You go with the Most High, or you go with these lies. Go through all these things if you wish. Make your comparison, study. Let's interact. Let's talk about these things. This is where I will end. Thank you very much. Ngiyabonga. Asante sana. All praises to the Most High. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.